Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm Wess Brown, the host, and today we're going to be going over turkey hunting bow setups and a few suggestions from me here and Redline on what you could possibly be using, what I use, and this particular setup right in front of us. And then in a later video, we're also going to be going over all the tools of the trade when it comes to bow hunting turkeys and give you guys some turkey hunting tips. And kind of just that whole setup, right? But anyway, obviously we're here in my shop today because spring has sprung. It's gorgeous outside and I did not want to be inside. And I also took all of my 3D targets, put them out in my yard so I can shoot them from my porch. Super exciting day. But anyway, let's dive right into this setup. Now my setup, guys, you guys have already seen my setup. It's, the Mach 34, all green. I have it set at like 73, 74 pounds. I'm using that exact setup all of 2023, mainly because I have a lot of bigger hunts outside of turkey season. So I really didn't want to just, tune that whole thing down just for turkeys. I know I'll be able to kill them with it. Maybe not the perfect ideal shot as far as arrows staying in the bird, which we'll go over that here in a second. But I just want to build that confidence with one setup for these bigger hunts I have coming up. Now, if I only had whitetail season coming up or maybe elk in September, I would definitely dial it down to, and that's why I have this bow as an example. This is my dad's bow that I've set up for him. And, but yeah, so if you guys are wondering what I'm shooting, I am still shooting what I've shot for hogs, what I shot, all the way from when you seen me in December get that bow till now. But I will show you why and tell you why I like this setup right here that I've done for my dad. Now, if you don't recognize this bow, this is the Evo 33, XF33 from PSE. And if you recognize it at all, this is the bow that I had last year for turkey season that did me very well. I killed two great birds, one in Virginia, one in Kentucky, and this bow did perfect. Well, my dad, who obviously got me and my brother into bow hunting, got that fire lit underneath us, and I'm at where I'm at now with bow hunting because of him. But he did take some time off. We got him back in a couple years ago, shot a great buck. Then he kind of took it off again, and now we're like, hey, Dad, you got to shoot bows with us. And then he's obviously wanting to shoot bows with us because he sees me over here at the house with my brother. We're shooting. He wants to get involved, which is awesome. So what I did with this bow for him, now this is going to be a setup for him also into whitetail season. We will probably crank it up a little bit, but it's kind of perfect starting out with turkey, right? So my dad hasn't shot a bow a whole lot. We're retraining him. And what I did with this is it's a 70-pound bow, and I took it all the way down to 55 pounds. And the reason why I did that is because he's not used to pulling a bow back. And he is able to pull this back very, very easily, whether he's standing or sitting. And sitting is key because when we're shooting turkeys, 98, or at least for me and who I teach, 99.9% of the time, I'm shooting a turkey while sitting in a stool or a chair somewhat low to the ground. And you have to be able to pull that bow back smoothly without a lot of movement. So the lower the poundage, the better. As long as you have the right proper arrow set up to be able to shoot at that bird, you're going to be fantastic, which we'll go over the arrow setup here in a minute. So from top to bottom, I mean, obviously there's strings and cables. We have a drop away rest. We have a peep sight that's a specialty peep. And the reason why I have that for him is if you went to or have listened to any of the other videos that I've talked about a peep, I wanted to be able to switch that peep out depending on what was comfortable for him without having to put it back in a press. Super easy. Obviously a D-loop, he's using a thumb release. And then we have a little kickstand here. The kickstand to me is paramount because you are in a blind and I don't want to have to lean that up there with an arrow and it's going to stab into my blind or whatever, go into the ground, get dirt on it. And if you're sitting there and you're able to have that right in front of you, it's very easy, quick movements to go and shoot. And that's what I like to use. And I on the PSE, I put them on the front right in between like those limb cups, because if you don't take that off and you shoot it with it on, it will be a little loud, but it's not going to ruin the bow like it would if it was on the back side here. Now to the sight. Now obviously we're using Redline sight, and this is the RL2 3-pin and with a light. Now I say it with a light because usually you're in a blind, at least for me and my dad, is going to be, I'm filming him, so I'm definitely going to be in a blind with him, is to have that light because not a lot of outside light is getting to your fiber optics within a blind. So that light to me is very, very important. So all of our Redline sights come with a light, whether you have the RL2, RL1, the torch, they all come with lights and they all work. And if they don't, give us a call. But anyway, this is the 3-pin, and I want him to have a 3-pin because he's used to that old school way of shooting, right? Fixed pins. And he's very interested in using a movable sight as well. Well, within this process, I'm not really worried about having that 3rd pin as a roamer. So he's dead on at 20, 30, and 40. And obviously with turkey season, we're really only worried about out to 20 yards because I'm gonna have those decoys set up between 8 and 10 yards. And if they hang up, hopefully they only hang up at 20 yards. Yeah, so, you know, obviously we have the front bar, and the reason why we have such a short front bar, this is the 8-inch, and the reason why I went with the 8-inch is because I want there to not be so much weight on the bow. I want my dad to be able to get comfortable with this, kind of the lightest weight possible, so his shoulder and his arm can get used to holding that bow up, you know, pulling it back, all that kind of thing, you know. So that's what's important to me. I want him to be comfortable. I want him to be successful. Obviously, we're going to use a 6 arrow quiver. It's the RL1. And I say obviously, like you guys know why. The reason why is because he's going to be whitetail hunting with this whole setup. So he wanted to make sure that everything he had for turkey, he wanted to be ready for whitetail season, which is a pretty common thing. So when you're thinking about a turkey setup, think of about that whitetail, what you primarily use your bow for, because I don't think it's really that bad to set up your whitetail bow for whitetail and still use it for turkey. I don't think it's that big a deal. But here's the one reason why I would suggest to set your bow up for turkey. Now, if you watched any of my turkey videos or a lot of other people's turkey videos, you'll see that arrows are melting through birds, right? They put it right on that wing where you think the vital area is, and the arrow's melting through them. And for the most part, you probably see those turkeys die. But the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to have a heavy enough arrow, not going fast enough to go through the bird, but just fast enough to obviously hit the vitals, get through that bird, and stay in the bird. Because if the arrow's in it, there's a good chance that that bird cannot either run away, depending on where you hit it, or fly away. It's going to make it very awkward, so that if you did make a marginal shot or didn't hit the perfect, hit the lungs and the heart, and it's not dying quickly, you can go and catch it, or you'll get another opportunity with another arrow. And so with my dad's setup, I set him up with a very heavy arrow. These are Black Eagle Spartans, some old arrows that I used to have, or that I used to shoot, that I had around, that are practically brand new. And it's a 300 spine. Now that's a very, very stiff arrow for a 55-pound bow, but stiff is better than if it was too weak. But we're only shooting at 20 yards. That's our max for turkeys with my dad. And we're going to use these Swackers, the expandables. And the reason why I picked this whole setup is because, one, the arrow is heavy enough, and it's tuned for his shot, is heavy enough to get into that bird, punch it hard enough, and then with the mechanical is going to use a lot of energy to open up inside that bird, and hopefully we'll have an arrow that sticks inside the bird, stays in it, and let's hope that he hits a perfect shot, lungs and heart, that bird's dead, and worst case, that it does not fly away, gives us an opportunity for another shot, or we're able to go out there and grab it and kind of wring its neck. But yeah, so I mean, mechanicals, can't go wrong with turkey, I don't think. Now for me, I'm using a fixed head this year. It's going to be the same one I'm using for my bear hunts. It's going to be the same one I'm using for whitetail, pretty much everything, because I want to gain confidence in my entire setup that I'm going to be using for 2023. And there's a lot of new stuff for me, so really trying hard to make sure that I'm confident in all that. But if you want to make sure that you have some room for error, make sure that your arrows you should only be going between 270 to maybe 285, fairly heavy arrow setup, and use a mechanical. You could probably go and find your 125s or even like a 150 mechanical, to where you get like maybe a 3-inch cutting diameter. One of my other favorites is it's the Whitetail Special from Grim Reaper. They have 3 blades, and it takes a lot of energy for that to open up. So if you have a low poundage bow, decently heavy arrow with those 3 blades coming out in a 2-inch open cut, that's devastating for a bird. and I don't think you'd have to worry too much about that thing going anywhere, and your arrow's probably going to be stuck in that bird. But anyway, guys, this is a super simple setup. I don't want to make it too complicated for you guys. If you've never bow hunted turkeys, there's not a lot to it when it comes to an entire setup. But this is a really good example of having a low poundage setup, heavy arrows so that your arrow will stick in that bird and maybe not melt through it and go out the other side. And really, I mean, RL2, RL1, 3-pin's great, and make sure, my biggest tip to you guys, make sure you're shooting sitting down, and make sure you shoot at a target that looks like a turkey if you can, while sitting down at 10 yards, and watch where your arrow goes. I promise you it's not going to be where you expect it if you have not shot at that close of a distance. So know your equipment, know what your arrow's doing, and get ready for turkey season, guys, because it's here. And I don't know about you, but I'm freaking ready. So I hope this helped you guys out, and hopefully it helps you guys make a decision or give you an educated guess at what maybe you should be shooting this season for turkeys. So stay tuned for another video, guys, coming up. I'm going to go over all the tools that I use out in the field. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.